Today we're going to be talking about fractions. And I know that some of you guys think, oh my goodness, I got a fraction as my answer. There's no way that can be correct. I made a mistake. Guess what? This year, we're going to talk about fractions all year long. Fractions are going to be our friends. You're not going to love them, but I'm going to try to make them as easy as possible. So when you are solving equations, you're going to get fractions as some of your answers. They're not going to work out to be integers all the time. I wish life was that easy, but they're not. If I have a 2x equals 11, I know I'm going to get rid of that times 2 by dividing 2. Dividing 2. Oh my goodness. I get a fraction as my answer. Do not change this to a decimal. Do not change this to a mixed number. The reason being is when we hit our linear equations units, we're going to be using these fractions to graph our slopes on our functions or our graphs. So please do not change them. It's not going to make sense when we're doing linear functions and you're going to try to graph a 5.5 up 5.5. That doesn't make sense when we do that. So it's okay for us to get fractions. Obviously, if you can reduce them, you gotta reduce them. So if I have a 4x equals 18, I can divide by 4, divide by 4. Don't give me an 18/4. It will not say on your instructions to reduce if necessary. That's just something that we are assuming that you will be doing by the 8th grade. You need to be able to cut this in half, and give me a simplified but equivalent fraction. All right, that would be 9 halves. Do not change it to a 4.5. Do not change it to a 4.5. No mixed numbers, no decimals. The only time you can give me a decimal, phone fell. Sorry about that. The only time you can give me a decimal is if I give you a decimal to start with. Give me a second to put this back together. There we go. So example 3 here. If I give you like a 2.1 plus f, which there should be no uppercase variables, and equals a 5. Then you can subtract 2.1, you can subtract 2.1. This is not going to give you a 3.1. Be careful. This is going to give you a 2.9. All right, that's the only time I'm looking for a decimal equivalent. We're not going to be dealing with mixed numbers, but this is the only time I'm asking for a decimal answer, is if I give you a decimal at the beginning. Otherwise, please keep your solutions in fraction form. If you're doing a checking step, definitely plug it back in as a decimal, check in your calculator. I know that this is, you could type it into your calculator, a 4.5. So when I check it, I'm going to be faster if I check it as a decimal into my calculator. I'm going to notice that my left side and my right side, and give me a second, I don't want this to fall again. I'm going to notice that my left side and my right side are going to be equivalent. Then you can use a decimal as your checking step. But otherwise, fractions are going to be our friends this year. Get used to them. We're actually going to spend quite a bit of our, I think like 2-3 lessons on solving equations with fractions. I'm going to teach you a way to get rid of your fractions to make your life easier. It doesn't mean you're not going to get fraction answers. It just means you're not going to have to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions as much as you would if you were using fractions throughout the whole solving equations process.